Well, they better be very careful. Let's begin. Now, of course, over the years, Nigel Farage has had one or two controversies, hasn't he? Not to mention, of course, the recent NatWest one, which obviously he kicked their bums, and now it seems he might have to do a similar thing. But who with this time? Well, apparently Ofcom. Yes, that's right. Ofcom have apparently come after Nigel Farage, it seems. Because according to this article, Nigel Farage has apparently warned Ofcom that he is ready for a fight. And to be honest, I don't blame him, because the regulator launched an investigation into his TV programme. The TV host and former UKIP and Brexit Party leader hit out during his GB News programme on Monday night. He said, Ofcom, you've got it wrong. I would point out that tonight is the 550th episode of Farage. We've never had a single complaint upheld against this programme for due impartiality, or indeed for anything else. So why now? And why, after 2.5 years of doing the job, Ofcom have decided to do this? Could it have something to do with the fact that there's an election this year? Well, personally, yeah, I reckon it is. Let's face it, it does often seem that the majority of the London bubble do seem to be on the left-leaning side of things, so presumably favour such parties as Labour and probably a few others. In fact, maybe actually anyone apart from the Conservatives and Reform. Even the BBC themselves seem to basically get away with any complaints that they've had over the years, don't they? But anyway, he continues and says, and perhaps there is a bit of establishment pressure being put on the regulator. Well, that isn't the first time that's happened, is it? I don't know, but I'll tell you what, folks, you come to me and pick a fight, I'm ready anytime you like. And personally, after the drubbing that he gave NatWest, I think they'd be very foolish to pick on him at all. Ofcom, though, said they would investigate the Mr. Farage's programme on the channel on January the 17th. Well, why? Well, apparently a spokesman for the regulator said that we are investigating whether this programme broke our rules requiring news and current affairs to be presented with due impartiality. Well, Nigel always seems very impartial to me, but well, that's not it, because they also say that's also because they're preventing politicians from acting as newsreaders. Well, hang on a minute. Nigel Farage surely actually can't be counted as a politician. I mean, yes, I know he's the honorary president of Reform, but let's face it, he's not an MP, or presumably even a party member, in the sense that he'd go out and campaign to be elected for Reform. I mean, I know that might change in the run-up to the election, but at the moment, he's not, is he? And what about other TV channels like LBC, BBC, ITV? Even Talk TV. I mean, plenty of politicians have hosted TV programmes before, so personally I think this is a bit of a desperate move on Ofcom's part. But anyway, it comes apparently on the same day that Ofcom said that Lawrence Fox's misogynistic comments about female journalist Ava Evans on GB News, Jan Woodton's night broke Ofcom rules. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was after the 9pm watershed, so surely, even though admittedly that was not a very nice thing to say, what he did actually say, but after 9pm or 9:30pm, whatever it is, the rules are a little bit more relaxed, aren't they? But anyway, Ofcom said that it apparently had significant concerns about GB News' editorial control of its live output, and had requested a meeting with the broadcaster to discuss compliance practices on this topic. And the media watchdog investigation found that Mr. Wootton and GB News' accounts of why an apology was not read out differed, and noted that no other editorial techniques were used to address the potential for offence. And this is where we're all going, isn't it? So much for free speech. I mean, admittedly, I said it wasn't a very nice thing what he said, but at the end of the day, that was his opinion, wasn't it? And that's all it apparently was, an opinion. And people, whether they like it or not, people do not have a right not to be offended. And let's face it, if it happened on another TV channel, which was presented by lefties, and they were saying something against men or whatever, then presumably that would have been okay. But it obviously isn't the case in this case, is it? And where is it going to go on from here? I mean, are we going to have to police every single word we say? In which case, let's face it, comedians or whatever else are going to have to be pretty careful with the jokes they tell in case it offends anyone and they get cancelled themselves. It's just absolutely gone too far, in my opinion. I mean, whatever happened to free speech anymore, including with what obviously the Ofcom investigation is surrounded by Nigel Farage at the moment, and hopefully he will kick their bums with whatever reply he comes out with. I personally think that Ofcom are clutching at straws at the minute, because let's face it, they haven't actually come out and said specifically what the problem was, have they? Just that it's all about impartiality. Well, I'm pretty sure that any programme on GB News will be a lot more impartial than any programme on the BBC. Of course, Ofcom probably don't want to hear about that, do they?